Take notes. So if you were not here yesterday, then you need to pull up the video from review 1, and that's where you would find all the step-by-step instructions as well as the notes. As far as today goes, we're just going to run through the problems. Okay, so if we look at this very first one, each table represents a relation, determine the domain and range, and then whether it's a function or not. Okay, so the domain is going to be all the x's, and we do not write the same number down twice. So it's going to be -6, -3, 0, and 1. And make sure that you don't write down 2 ones because that would be repeating. Okay, the range, same thing. So there's 2 4s. We're only going to write down 1, 0, 2, and -3. Okay, and then we look at this and say, well, is this a function or not? Not. Why not?
There's repeating
There's repeating what, though?
range,
It's going to be the what?
x.
The x's. Okay, so the range really has no barrier on that, but it's going to be the domain or the x's. Okay, so because I have repeating ones right here, then this is not a function. So no, it is not a function. Okay, the next one is the same thing. They are just in ordered pairs. And so the first part of an ordered pair is the x, the second part is the y. Okay, so the domain is going to be -6, -3, 3, 5, and 6. Okay, the range is going to be 3, 2, -4, 2, which is already on our list, so we don't need to write it down again, and 6. Okay, and then we do the same thing again as far as whether this is a function or not. We look at the x's, and if any of them repeat, it is going to be not a function. And in this case, none of them repeat, so yes, it is a function. Okay, as far as the graph goes, same thing, we're going to determine the domain and range. Okay, so the domain is going to be from the x line. Okay, so we use this line and look up and down a bunch until we find all our numbers.
Teacher, sorry, one more interruption. We only have 10 kids out of about 50 plus on that list for PSAT, so please double check that list. And if that person is in your class sitting, send them to the auxiliary gym. Double check that list that Mrs. Wallace sent you yesterday afternoon. We would greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we follow this x line, so anything that goes up and down off this x line, so 7 is going to be 1, 4 is going to be 1, -1, and there's 2 there. So because there's 2 there, this one is definitely going to be not a function. Okay, -4. And then we go ahead and do the same thing for anything that's on this y line. So 3, 2, -1, -2, and -4. Okay, for the next page, it's just a mapping. Okay, the domain is going to be -7, -5, -2, 3, and 4. Okay, so essentially you write them all down within the first box that's labeled domain. Put that in your back pocket. ain't gonna have no girl, you don't get an education. Don't nobody wanna date no bum, Nick.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then how do we tell if this one's a function?
Arrows.
The arrows. So we cannot have more than 2 arrows coming off of the same number on the domain. And so when we look at this, we can definitely tell, yes, this is a function. Okay, for the graph, we look at it and anything that is a closed shape or that's sideways, okay, is not gonna be a function. So is number 9 a function?
Yes.
Yes.
It is not. So that's the one tricky one. So a vertical line is made up of points. And what they did was connect all of the dots to make that line, okay? So a vertical line is not a function. Okay, so this one is gonna be a no. And that's the only tricky one. So anything that's sideways, okay, is not gonna be a function. Anything that's a closed shape, okay, is not gonna be a function. As well as a vertical line. Okay, number 11 is all about evaluating functions. So everywhere there's an x, we are plugging in what number? Okay, everywhere there's an x, we're plugging in a 6 or negative 6. Okay, so we're using this part and we're gonna plug in negative 6 everywhere there's an x. Okay, so it's really gonna, and this is just what you're gonna type in your calculator, 2 parentheses, negative 6, close parentheses, plus 5.
-7.
Somebody agree?
Yes.
Yeah, so my answer is gonna look like this though. F of negative 6, which is this part, okay, is negative 7. Okay? Because it's only negative 7 if I plug in that 6, okay? So that's why we have to write that part. It is only negative 7. If I would plug in negative 5, you're going to get a different answer other than negative 7. Huh?
This is totally off track, but it's the auxiliary region, like,
I have no idea.
because I have gym class next period, and I was wondering if.
I have no idea.
What's going on?
Nothing. Hold on, my camera's on, so I don't want to have a side conversation right now. Okay, 13. Again, you're gonna plug in everywhere there's an X. We're plugging in what?
-4.
-4. Okay, so we're gonna plug this in 2 times on here. So really, on your calculator, you're typing parentheses -4 squared plus 8 parentheses -4 plus 15. Okay, and so everywhere that there was an X, that's what we would be looking like on our calculator.
32. I think I did it in my head, so I could be wrong.
Negative 1. Somebody else? Isabella, what'd you get? -1? Okay, this one, sketch the graph of each line. So again, you're gonna just put the intercept. So on the X line, we're putting 3. On the Y line, we're putting 3. Okay, and you're gonna draw your line. Okay, the same as yesterday, cross off number 17 and 18. Okay, find the slope of each line. Okay, so again, we count from the bottom one to the top one. So how much do you rise? How much do you run?
5 and 3.
5 over 3. Okay, and we always check to see if that fraction can be reduced. Is that a positive line or a negative line?
Positive.
It's positive, so we're gonna leave it at 5/3. If it was a negative line, you just add a negative on that 5/3. Okay? Okay, find the slopes through each pair of points. Okay, so that's that y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? Okay, so it's gonna be 11 minus 3 over negative 15 minus 14. Okay, and again, if you did yesterday's, or if you have not, okay, I gave you every single formula, every single step. Okay, I wrote down step 1, step 2, step 3, because some of these get kind of long. Okay, so if you know that you have not done that, you're gonna need to get that out of the box today, and make sure that you do that during success, or take it home, or whatever, so that way you have step-by-step instructions. Okay, what did you guys get for this?
8 over negative 29, which I think can be reduced, correct?
I don't know, use a calculator, is what my answer's gonna be.
8, it's negative 8 over 29.
Okay, so it was
Okay, the next one says find a slope, find the y-intercept. Which one of those is slope?
2 over 5.
Perfect, the 2/5. What letter do I use for slope?
B.
Close, M. So the M equals negative 2/5. My B then is what?
5.
Close, -5. Okay, so if there's anything other than a plus there, because the plus is part of that formula, we have to put that down. Okay, the next one, write the slope intercept form. Okay, the steps are the same for these, and again, we wrote them down yesterday. So you're gonna subtract the x's and then divide by the number that is next to the y. So in this case, there is a 1 in front of the x, so we're gonna say minus 1x minus 1x. Okay, and so I get y equals negative 1x minus 6. Okay, so we subtract the x's and then you divide by the number that is next to the y. What number is next to the y?
1.
1 or nothing in this case. So do we need to divide? No, but if you look at number 26, you will need to divide on that one because there is a number there. Can I scroll? Okay, 27, write the point slope form of the equation on line. So that is, we can go ahead and label these. X1, Y1, and that's my M. And again, we wrote down all the formulas and the steps yesterday. So it's gonna look like Y minus my Y1 equals my M, which is 5, X minus X1. Okay, and that one is not finished, why?
Try to turn the 2 negatives into
Perfect, so it should really look like, we have a minus minus 4, so it should really be a y plus 4, and I have a minus minus 1, so it should really be an x plus 1. Okay, it is not a plus negative 1, okay, or a negative plus 1, okay, it's just straight up, there is a plus 1. So I always just connect the two, and then put a line through it, okay? The next one says write the slope intercept form. So they gave us a point slope form. We need to go to slope intercept form. Okay? And so this one we learned how to write it in point slope form. This one they gave it to us in point slope form. We need to get it in slope intercept form. And this is where you're going to kind of distribute. Okay? So 5 over 4 times x is going to be 5 over 4x. 5 over 4 times 4. Okay, and again, if you don't know how to type in the calculator, fractions on the calculator, I will gladly help you. 20, so you're gonna get a 5. Huh?
20 over 4, which can be reduced.
Okay, so you're gonna get a 5 there.
Oh, reduced. I didn't reduce
Yeah.
it. I'm sorry.
And then we need to move that one away from the y. Okay, so we're gonna say minus one, and what am I gonna put that under, the 5/4 or the 5? Which one does it go with?
5/4.
The 5.
The 5, okay, so it cannot go, because that one has an x and this one does not. Okay, so those are two totally different, like, people. Okay, and so that's our final answer. Anytime you see parentheses, just know that you're gonna have to distribute, okay? Okay, and I cannot stress this enough. First of all, if you have not turned in your sheet from yesterday, make sure that you get that and turn it in. If you left it in your locker or something, please during work time, go get it. As well as if you did not take the notes or watch the video, okay? You need to, okay? I promise you, I literally wrote every single formula, every single step. Because like this one has multi-step, when we get to the back, there's way even more steps. Okay, so if you wrote down all the steps, you should be perfectly fine. And you may not be, but you have a better chance. Okay, so write the point slope form. But we can see here that I've given 2 points. And so there is only one formula that has a y2 and a y1 and an x2 and an x1. So our very first step is going to be to use that formula. And in this case, it's the slope formula. Okay, so it's going to look like y2, which is 2, minus y1, which is 3, over x2, which is 0, minus x1, which is 5. Okay, and when you type that in, you should get 1/5, I think.
1/5, yeah.
1/5. Okay, and that is our slope, okay? And so now that we found our 1/5, we can go ahead and plug it in point slope form, okay, which is gonna be y minus y1, which is 3, equals my m, which is 1/5, x minus x1, which is 5. Okay, now, if this said, put it in slope-intercept form, you would need to distribute and move stuff over, but it does not. It says leave it in point slope form. And the way I remember, point slope starts with a P, point, okay? So that lets you know to leave the parentheses, okay? Okay, and then this one has every single formula that we've used, okay? So these are the ones that are worth the most points, okay? And again, watch that video, okay? I posted them from yesterday. It wasn't a long day, quite a few of you guys had to take this stuff home, but you definitely need to know how to do this one because it's gonna be worth the most. Okay, so we're gonna start off by labeling. Okay, so we're gonna say y2, which is 4, minus y1, which is 5, over x2, which is 5, minus x1, which is 0.
4/0.
Okay, and so that's our very first step. Okay, and what did you guys get?
4/0, which I don't remember what it is to.
You need to use your calculator.
Negative 1/5.
Negative 1/5. So even if, and your biggest downfall is, and I'm not hating, you think you know it in your head, so you don't even bother to check it. So even though like for the last one, I'm like, I think it's 1/5, I always have you guys double check, just double check it. Just double check it.
I wrote the equation wrong.
I mean, I figured that,
That's
but
why.
I know, but even still, like, there's times, like, you gotta use your calculator, because you forget to reduce, and then it's gonna mess up everything below it.
I mean, I can do the math, it's just if I don't.
I know you
write the
can.
equation right.
So we got y minus y1, which is 5, equals my slope, which is negative 1/5, x minus my x1, which is 0. Okay, so we go from slope to point slope. Now, yesterday we broke down every single step and every single formula, so the things look really, really long. They're really not that long, but, when you write down every formula with it, it does seem like that. Okay, and so now we're gonna go ahead and distribute. Okay, so I got y minus 5 equals negative 1 over 5x. Okay, and then I say this 1/5, or this negative 1/5 times 0 is still gonna be 0. And you can say plus 0 or minus 0, it does not matter. But I would put the 0 there because you still have another step to do, and then you guys will get all jacked up. Okay, and so our very last step is gonna be to move that 5, and we're gonna say plus 5. And what happens here is when you forget to put the 0, then you guys will put that 5 with this, and it does not belong with this, it belongs with this one. Okay, and so I got negative 1 over 5x, and 0 plus 5 is 5. Okay, number 35 and 36, you're gonna cross off just like we did yesterday. Okay, and then our last one is 37. So again, we took notes on how to do this. So if we look at the very first part, so is 37 positive, negative, or no correlation?
Negative.
It is negative. Now, if it's none, that's when you're gonna stop, okay? You won't have any other answers. But because it's negative, you also need to pick another something else, okay? And so, is that linear, quadratic, or exponential?
Quadratic.
It is most definitely quadratic, okay? So, we talked about this yesterday, but it would flatline out at the 0 marker, essentially, if it was exponential. So this is gonna be a negative quadratic. Okay, you guys go